Soccer under construction here on Morning Kickaround. DC United submitted a proposal to build a brand new 12,000 capacity professional soccer stadium in Baltimore, Maryland. It's going to be built for a professional women's club and an MLS Next Pro team, just 3 miles west of the Inner Harbor. So, what do we got to do when we hear news like this, eh?
Oh yeah, we're going to debut something here now. This is an organic development around here. This came out of something that Rob said, I don't know, a month or so ago, 2 months ago, Rob. And we're going to determine what the level of this is. But here you go. We have Clang the Clanger for Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore, Maryland. We're clanging the clanger. Now, we have established, because you might wonder, what is the difference between clanging the clanger and dotting the map? We dot the map with our ultras, but we also dot the map with American soccer clubs. That's what we're talking about here. This is abundance theory when it comes to American soccer. The more clubs, the better. Let's just start clubs everywhere and see what happens. We've never tried that before. Let's do it. And I will say that, I have some doubts around this plan. I have some doubts around some of these proposed clubs. But clanging the clanger is just announcing somebody has an intention to bring pro soccer to a place, Rob. Is that what that's about?
Yeah, narrowing the eyeballs. It's like I meant to say sound the alarm, but instead we clang the clanger. Basically, all eyes on X city. And today, we mentioned it earlier in the week saying Baltimore, huge city, no soccer team. What's going on? And here we are. Just the same week we talked about that. Baltimore, Maryland, 12K MLS Next Pro. A women's pro team. They don't declare what league that would be in, but also a familiar celebrity involved.
Yeah, well, okay, you mentioned the women's team. I do think, like, for all of the talk here about how DC United has been planning an MLS Next Pro team in Baltimore for years, promising the updates for years on this. Go follow I'm going to get Douglas's last name backwards, and I apologize. And I think he was telling us he was suspended from Blue Sky. Douglas Reyes Sharon on Blue Sky. Douglas is a guy who keeps track of stuff like this. He's a DC area guy. He'll tell you, Jason Levian was promising, the owner of the DC United, was promising something on Baltimore months ago and didn't deliver. He said, in 48 hours, we'll have an update. And then we waited a long time before this news dropped, which is, again, why there must be some concern over how real any of this all is. But for all the talk about DC United and MLS Next Pro, the bigger story is if this is a first division team in Baltimore, Rob, like if for women, if they say now, let's remember the USL Super League, first division. That's a first division soccer league in America. I have not heard anything about NWSL being interested in Baltimore. We just had a competition between multiple cities to get the latest NWSL expansion franchise, which ended up being Denver Summit. So I don't think this is NWSL, right? Like, it seems pretty obvious that whatever that celebrity you mentioned, a certain gentleman named Carmelo Anthony, and here he is with one of his failed soccer investments, Puerto Rico FC, a club very near and dear to my heart, as you can imagine. He is involved. He's a Baltimore guy. He's involved. You can see there, Carroll Park Golf Course. That's the proposed location for the 12,000 seat stadium and other things, right? Did you mention the other things that are attached to this? A building for gym and facility.
40,000 square feet building.
A practice facility. Like, this is supposed to be a big project. Price tag, $300 million. And DC United is saying they are going to put up $100 million of this money. So they are very much dependent on money from the city, from the Maryland Stadium Authority, in order to get this off the ground. So again, I think you could be cynical about the way it looks like, the way it looks on paper here from what they've announced. You can be cynical about it. I wouldn't blame you, but let's hope, again, because we're in the abundance era of American soccer, because we're clanging the clanger and dotting the map, that this gets off the ground. I'll also say, just as an aside, these are the Jordan 5s that were created for Carmelo Anthony's Puerto Rico FC club. I'm still trying to figure out how to get my hands on these. I can't let a Carmelo Anthony and soccer mention go by without bringing up these shoes. And I'd also say that Carmelo Anthony played a role in the NASL versus U.S. Soccer lawsuit, if you don't remember that, because he was put on the stand to be asked about some of the things that had happened around his club and around NASL. And I think that ended up being a bit of a nothing burger, but I just think it's fascinating. A guy who's already been burned once by investing in soccer in America. Yes, he was doing it in Puerto Rico. Yes, that's a territory. No, it's not the mainland. But a guy who was burned once by soccer investment is coming back for more, Rob. He's coming back for more.
Yeah, that's some stick-to-itiveness from Mr. Anthony. You'd think that having to be put on the stand in a major legal battle would maybe make you a little gun shy, but apparently Carmelo, a lover of soccer investment, and has been obviously a fraught and lengthy process. Maryland Stadium Authority first approved conducting a stadium study for a soccer-specific stadium in Baltimore in 2022. And this site they picked is an 80-acre golf course called Carroll Park Golf Course, which has been a public golf course since 1923. The Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott is on board with this idea, and he identified this golf course as the least used golf course in the area. So underutilized open space seems to make sense for a soccer whole campus here with all those buildings.
Yeah, a couple of other details to throw on top, because this is the speculation phase. There and things that maybe matter to how big this can possibly get. And Ian Quillen at Forbes is the source to go to for a lot of these details. He wrote a pretty comprehensive piece, more than just a news hit, a mention. This was detail filled. So the club and the city announced Carroll Park in the city southwest of the desired stadium construction site, following a feasibility study that was funded by D.C. and the Maryland Stadium Authority. Baltimore Mayor Brandon Scott was influential in the decision. He's the one that was pushing this neighborhood. The legislature of Maryland also approved a $217 million, let me make sure I have this right, because $216 million of state funds, introduced bills, not approved, introduced bills. Obviously, that bills have to go through a process. So this is a possible public-private project that is not yet confirmed, not yet funded completely. Now, Ian also reports that Jason Levian, owner of DC United, the guy who says he's putting up $100 million of the total price tag, he appears open to the idea that Baltimore could eventually earn MLS expansion rights as an outgrowth of MLS Next Pro being in town. And then noted that was a trajectory that other markets have followed. That feels so wildly down the road and speculative that it almost feels irresponsible. Now, Ian has to report on this if Levian says he is open to it. And what's interesting, of course, if you know DC area sports, you'll know that that's fascinating for a DC franchise to be open to a Baltimore team, which is in the general geographic area. The DC and Baltimore are basically one big metropolitan area. DC is 45 minutes from Baltimore on a good day in traffic. Me takes an hour and a half, but I'm south of DC. And this is in light of, or this, the history of DC wanting a baseball team, and Peter Angelos and the Baltimore Orioles, Peter Angelos, the owner of the Orioles at the time, basically blocking DC from getting a baseball team for a couple of decades, because they claimed it would undercut their business. I just think that that's interesting background.
That is a good note there. And we're getting some comments from the Ultras about the possible location of the women's team or the league that they're in. And Chris, great authority on the lower leagues in the United States, saying that DC Power is in the USL Super League. So that would likely be the women's team right there. And then a couple other people chiming in. Apparently, we might need some more sound effect. They're saying that was the shortest clang they've ever heard at the time.
They want more clang?
They want more clang. Yeah, so now that the eyes are on Baltimore for a brand new soccer stadium project, we should definitely call and sound and clang the clanger. Here we go, Baltimore.